Good morning, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of April, 2022. I welcome you all to this live stream of yet another episode. And by now, you know the drill. Share the stream, call a friend, tell a friend that we are on today. And as the notice indicated, today we're going to be dealing with a very important subject, political interference in the Guyana Police Force and the impact that has on professionalism. I have with me today Mr. Clinton Conway, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police and former member of the Police Service Commission. He's already in the studio, ready and raring to go. So while we go through this introduction, I invite you to share the stream, share the live, call a friend, tell a friend that we are on and we are ready to grow. We are on and we are ready to go. So don't be selfish, just share the stream. And we will usually start by giving praise and thanks to the Almighty for allowing us to be in the land of the living, to be here this morning on social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whatever platform you're going to join us on. It's very good to be in the land of the living. Unfortunately, you would have realized that over the past week, a police sergeant met his demise with a fatal accident. Condolences to his family, his colleagues, his workers, his friends. And folks, we have to be very careful on the roads. Very, very careful on the roads. All of us are road users, some form. We are drivers, we are riders, we are pedestrians, and we can see the craziness that goes on the road. So we have to make sure that we do not contribute to that madness on the roads in Guyana. So again, share the stream, and then we also had the passing of a former police officer, Trenton Marks. He passed sometime recently. I think he was in the USA when he passed. I remember Trenton used to be on the east coast of Demerara. He was stationed for a long time on the east coast. And when Larry Lewis was commissioner of police, he was brought there as the personal assistant to the commissioner, what we call the PAC. So Trenton has transitioned, and I think we all want to express condolences to his relatives, his friends, his family. So we have to, again, give thanks to be here in the land of the living, to be viewing this live stream, to participate in this program. I personally want to give thanks, and I'm sure you would want to do the same, because as people will tell you, those of us who believe that nothing happens without the intervention of the man upstairs. Nothing happens, and therefore we have to always, in everything we do, we must give thanks and praise. And especially now that we're in the Lenten season, it takes on additional significance to believers. So give thanks and praise, and share the live stream, and invite persons, let them know that we are on and we are ready to go. We're going to be dealing with the subject, political interference in the Guyana Police Force and its consequences for professionalism. So, very topical issue. So share, and we are going to be ready to start in a short while. So share. Now let me bring in Mr. Conway into the studio, and we are going to start our discussion almost immediately. Mr. Conway, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me. It's always nice to have groundings with my brother. But I listen to you on the lighter side of things. Gotta be careful with those dead announcements. You might run off Sharma and the others there,
Well, yes, but I know that it's of interest to, one of the things when persons retire, as you would know, we are all retirees. We like to keep abreast with what is going on. And sometimes we miss a person. And so when something happens, either good or bad to that person, we are always willing to share. And we get this type of information. I get this type of information because people all around, when one passes, they will call you, they will message you on social media to advise you, look, a former colleague has transitioned, and I think the onus is on us to inform the others. We aren't celebrating anything, we're just informing others that, look, a former colleague has transitioned, and perhaps, as I indicated earlier, that is even more reason for us to celebrate being in the land of the living.
Yes.
All right. As we said this morning, our subject will be political interference in the Guyana Police Force. But before we go into that subject, I think there are some issues. I mean, we had promised a few weeks ago that we'll be discussing this issue, but a lot of things intervened. We had lots of incidents that intervened, and we felt it was those incidents were current and serious enough for us to address it. So we did not really get to come around to this issue. So we have some other issues that intervened, and we are going to try to discuss them and hope we get enough time to deal with the subject at hand. Now, one of the things that is very current is the controversial appointment of the acting commissioner of police. That is gaining notice, traction all over. And let me say this. At this stage, as I think I've indicated before, this has nothing to do with the individual. I have expressed my views about the individual. My views have not changed, but I'm not going to address the individual. I'm going to deal with the constitutionality of the appointment. Now, the Constitution is clear. Article 211.1 and Article 211.2. 211.1 speaks to the appointment of commissioner and deputy commissioners, and 211.2 speaks about appointing them to act. 211.1 speaks about appointing them in a substantive position, and 211.2 speaks to the appointment of those persons to act in those positions. And the Constitution is clear. There is no ambiguity in terms of what is required. So I think the fact that this matter has been gaining so much attention, and we note that many persons, there is a PR program out, and many persons have commented. Some people have said that he's going to do a good job. And at this stage, in my mind, is not whether the person will do a good job, is whether the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, which is said to be the supreme law of the land, has been followed. What are your views on that, CC?
The Constitution is very, very clear. It calls for meaningful consultations with the leader of the opposition and the chairman of the Police Service Commission. Full stop. And I'm glad you raised a point in terms of the acting, because hearing a lot of people, he's the only acting, he hasn't been confirmed as the case may be. The Constitution is clear. And as I mentioned in an article, I think it was on Monday, that we're not living in North Korea where the leader is supreme, as the case may be. We're living in Guyana where the president is a creature of the Constitution, and he must bow down to the Constitution. He cannot shelter under the pretext of necessity, that nonsense that they come around with, an old and an old antiquated doctrine that is seldom used. The president has got to follow the letter, the spirit, and the intent of the Constitution, and to do otherwise is unlawful. We repeat it over and over again. And don't tell me nonsense that he is just acting. The Constitution made it clear that for you to appoint acting, you have to go through 211.1, which says you must have meaningful consultation. And if we look at the Civil Service Commission rules, it says that the senior person must act. It's a total breach of the Constitution.
Well said, well said. And let me highlight this, because what is worrying to me is that not so long ago, and this is a matter that is engaging the attention of the court, so therefore I don't think it would be appropriate for us to comment much on it. But the president was accused of violating the Constitution with respect to the suspension of members of the Police Service Commission. So within a year, here it is, allegations are being made again of another violation. I know I asked the question, what, if given having regards to these allegations, And I made the point before that I am hopeful that this matter is taken to the court so that the court can pronounce on the constitutionality of this appointment. Because when we have a situation where within a year, allegations are made of one or more violations of the Constitution, then one has to be very, very, very concerned. Any law-abiding, any right-thinking citizen must be concerned that the Constitution it seems to be meaningless to certain people in the executive. So we need to understand, we need to look at it in context. It's not, as some people say, well, it doesn't appear now as it's going to be an isolated incident. Allegations of a similar violation has been made, and now you have the same allegation, that the Constitution is once again violated.
Yeah, Paul, and I hear nonsense again too. That look, you can't allow the police force to be headless. No, Happy was not acting commissioner. Happy was performing the duties of the commission. So all this time the Guyana Police Force was headless.
Well,
so
exactly.
And then let me think. Why don't you use the doctrine of necessity to appoint a chief justice and a chancellor? Why don't you use the doctrine of necessity to drought funds, the NRF funds, so that you can do a developmental process? And a whole lot of things that you can do if you want to. The law of necessity is going to stand. It cannot stand. It is irrelevant.
Well, let me hope that it is taken to the court so that the courts can pronounce on that. Interestingly, you made the point about Mr. Appy. And let me remind our viewers that Mr. Nigel Appy performed the duties of Commissioner of Police from July the 31st, 2020, until he went into retirement sometime around the 26th of 26th of March this year, 2022. During that time, on the 1st of April 2021, the office of commissioner became vacant, and the Mr. Appy continued to work. During that time also, there was a leader of the opposition, and there was also a police service commission. So if you wanted to appoint Mr. Appy or anyone else, let's understand this clearly, because when it comes to the appointment, as you have pointed out before, you don't necessarily have to get agreement with the leader of the opposition. The Constitution says a meaningful consultation, whatever that means. So therefore, the conditions, the requisite conditions, or the conditions precedent to the appointment of the commissioner and deputy commissioner, those conditions were there. And to say that, to allude or to imply that between July the 31st, 2020 and 26, when our people proceeded to leave, the force was headless. But there's a slap in Appy's face. If I were in Appy's position, I would have been compelled to make a statement. But the guy being as decent, let me use the word, being as decent, I was tempted to say docile, but let me use another D. Being as decent as he is, I'm sure he is so glad to be out of the mix and enjoying his retirement leave. I don't think he's gonna say anything.
Yes, and he performed the duties, and when you look at it, financially he didn't benefit. He can't get no acting allowance. He retires as deputy commissioner.
Well, let me say this. I understand that many of those persons who are there used to refer them as masquerading in certain positions, deputy commissioner position, and I understand that they were given financial compensation. I don't know how legal that is. I don't know how that, in the case of Appy, even if that were so, how that is going to impact on his superannuation benefits, because as it is now, unless something is done between now and when he comes off properly on the 1st of January 2023, unless something is done in the interim, his superannuation benefits are likely to be seriously impacted, because he's going to get benefits as a deputy commissioner, not a person who carried out the function, not a person who acted in that position, but as a substantive deputy commissioner. And therefore, I am saying that his benefits are likely to be impacted by that.
Yes, you on the ball, Paul.
All right, so let me move on. As I said, I don't want to dwell on the person, Mr. Akin, who's appointed, whether he's suitable or not. I have already expressed my views on his qualification and suitability. I am not going to go there. But I want to make one point to clarify, because people are jumping in the media, some of his promoters, the propagandists, and I think 2 or more persons have said or have written to say that, look, when Mr. James, Mr. Oppie, and those others, Paul Williams, were promoted in 2018, Ikin, as an assistant commissioner, because they were all assistant commissioners, people are saying that Ikin was senior to those persons. All I would say to that, and I hope they listen. They listen. So let me repeat it very slowly so they can comprehend, because in many cases, it seems as though comprehension is a problem. And I say this in reference to Article 211, 1 and 2, because anyone who read 211, 1 and 2 and cannot comprehend what is said there have a difficulty in comprehension. But let me tell you this. I want them to go to find out how Mr. Ikin became senior to those persons that they refer to. James, Oppie, Williams, Maxime Graham, and Lyndon Alves. Let them find out. And I also, because what happened then, let me tell you this, without any fear of contradiction, any fear of successful contradiction. In those days, it was alleged, there was credible allegation that once the police service commission met and considered persons for promotion and created the final list, before that list became official, it had to go to a place in Brigdam and a place in Rob Street to be vetted. And it is alleged that is during that vetting process, unlawful, illegal. Because once the commission says that that is what it should be. That is how that Mr. Ikin and other people got their seniority. And let me direct them to a recent High Court case. A recent High Court case. The case is the name of the case is Courtney Ramsey versus the Police Service Commission. I'm not going to go into any details. The details are there. It's a recent decision where the same matter of seniority and qualification for office was up to the court. Ramsey took it to court, quite correctly so. And there was a ruling, I think either this year or late last year, in that matter. I understand that the court ruled that they were wrong and all of that. And the matter was sent to the police administration for them to compute certain benefits and so for Mr. Ramsey. And the man who is performing the functions of administration, I understand the man looked at the court order and decided that the court order was suspicious. The court order was forged and he was not going to comply. I understand the politicians had to get involved and tell him, hey, make sure you do this thing before you get, before all of us are dragged before the court for contempt. So I want to deal with this seniority issue that they're talking about and let them go and check it out.
And Paul, another critical issue in that case is that the Attorney General conceded.
Well, you said conceded using a fancy word. I would say the man chuck.
Okay.
When confronted with the evidence, when confronted with the incontrovertible evidence, the man chuck, or as they would say in boxing, you're throwing the towel. In other words, according to Roberto Duran, no mas. Remember that?
Yeah,
can't fight the case. Doesn't he understand? The case couldn't even have gone to trial because the matter was so compelling in the claimant's case. So when they jump and they talk a lot of crap, I have always said that when I speak, I get the ducks lined up. I get my facts. I'm not going to come here and tell the viewers things that cannot be substantiated. So let's understand this clearly. Now let's move on from that. And another disturbing issue we would have seen in the social media, this video with the female special constable being manhandled out of a yard. CC, what is your take on that?
I am shocked to the bone. Uh, re- and the information is that since January, and it's now coming to light, so they didn't do anything about it. And if you look at the actions of the police there is a man with a big long gun. I mean, to use the other term, they should have stand aside. I don't know what training again. Stand aside and let those unarmed people deal with it. And how can you treat your own like that? And then I heard that she has to get psychological treatment.
Psychiatric assessment and all of that.
They appointed an inexperienced girl who they say the psychologist, and she ended up in serious issues when being questioned at the last police officers conference. And the son happy had to use his cell phone and send messages to people. Hold on, don't
Back off.
proceed before the
Back off.
back off. It's ridiculous, Paul. It's ridiculous. But maybe if they had dealt with that one, we want to have the one where they would sing.
Well,
Might not happen.
well, let me say this. And I like to start from the position that I was a special constable. I joined the Guyana Police Force as a special constable in 1973. I'm proud to say that. I have nothing against the special constable or the special constabulary. Unfortunately, the special constabulary has evolved to be a glorified guard service in the police force. It has evolved to be a glorified guard service, and the regular police and even members of the public and do not have respect generally for special constables. And I must say, the manner in which many special constables operate, they do not give people the reason to respect them. Because respect is something that is earned. Yes. You can't beat somebody and demand respect. You cannot do that. So the whole issue there is that the corporate communication unit of the police force puts out a statement, and the first thing they say that this incident occurred since
January
of this year. So what? So you're suggesting that because it's an old matter, it need not be looked at this stage? And if you're saying that it occurred since January, my question to you would be, what have you done since then? Because by now you ought to have been able to say, don't tell me when the person is going to get psychiatric evaluation and assessment. 3 months down the road, you haven't done anything to one of your rank who you are claiming might need some professional interventions, some professional assistance. Now, look, get out of here. Get out of here. That was only done, I believe, to try to malign the rank. And as you said, from a tactical point of view, based on, again, what they're saying, this is a rank, according to them, who was told that she is reassigned to the headquarters. And apparently she refused and she keep going there. Now, that is the way you're going to deal with a matter like that? By sending people with, you say long gun. I am a little more technical.
Well, I left that to you to describe.
Selling people with an assault rifle. And even if, let's assume, because I suspect it was a regular patrol they would have told to go there.
Yeah.
Again, the lack of training is shown up because the man with the rifle ought not to be anywhere close to that type of what is going on. True. He should have been at a safe distance and let the people who are not armed deal with it. And in any event, to try to drag her out of the yard is not the correct way to deal with it. This police force, when I left many years ago, it had a Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, and I believe that that should have been used. There are so many other administrative and managerial tools that could have been used, but it is sad to see how that matter was dealt with. And as people have rightly pointed out, if you're dealing with one of your own who is in uniform in that manner, imagine how you will deal with others. Imagine how you will deal with Paul Slow when he turns up at the magistrate court to attend to a matter that you summon him to go to. So the whole thing speaks of lack of training, lack of professionalism.
Paul, I said before, and I'm going to repeat it. It is my honest impression, and it's been happening for some time now, that the Guyana Police Force they are treating members of the special constabulary like unwanted, unmarried, pregnant stepdaughters.
Well said. You know, and I think you should. I don't know if that phrase is original, is your original phrase, but I ordered another program. Somebody else tried to use the same phrase. But well said, well said. No, let me move on. This, and again, I would say this. I don't think the corporate communication unit of the Guyana Police Force is doing the organization, is doing the commissioner, whether acting, whether carrying out the function, justice. Because every time they make a release, they write a whole set of nonsense. Every time they make a release, they are obviously, they do not know the police standing orders. Obviously, they don't know how the police force functions. And on many occasions, these releases are attributed to some corporal or some constable. So what happened to the editorial policy of the force? I saw one, look, this one was so disturbing again. A rank apparently applied to become a cadet officer. And for whatever reason, he was not selected to go on the course. And it would appear that either himself or friends or relatives wrote some newspaper. And if you saw the response from the police, actually pointing out the one medical issues, he had his fitness problems, and all of that, they gave in a lengthy release about this man. Did you see that release?
Yeah, I saw it. A friend sent it to me, and there's a bunch of issues there, Paul. One, they're saying they send 41 names to the army. What they're gonna do with 41 cadets? They're gonna bust the establishment like they do with the sergeants. This police force is overstaffed with sergeants. I don't know. They're getting paid. Maybe later on in the public accounts committee that might come up, but by then those in authority would have long retired. 41 persons they sent to the thing. Did they expect that the army will fail a whole lot of them? The army don't run a course with 41 persons, right? And the guy too, he has a degree. They're saying he failed mathematics, but he has a degree. Those who attend the army course there, they later on understand they will have a associate degree. This guy got a degree and I think with distinction. And
But
you
let me say,
and
let me jump in. Let me jump in and say this. I mean, it's disingenuous of them. Well, I shouldn't say disingenuous because perhaps they don't know. There are many persons in the force who went through that same standard military officers course. And at the time when they went on the course, and at the time when they were appointed cadet officers, they did not have the necessary qualification, including English language, which was one of the
we know one who we call a capitalist.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that very, very well. That when he was sent on the course, he did not have necessary qualification. When he came off the course, he was promoted to cadet. And then it was discovered that he did not have the English language requirement. He was then advised that in order for him to be promoted to assistant superintendent or for him to be confirmed, he has to get the English language. He was reluctant. He basically refused. And he remained languishing in that rank for a number of years. And let me say this further. The fact that the person might not have had the maths, the fact that the person might have failed the physical assessment should not be a bar to that person becoming a cadet officer in the Guyana Police Force. There are 3 cadet officer schemes, 3 distinct schemes to get into the cadet officer program in the Guyana Police Force. The first scheme started, I think it was 1958. And again, I'm telling these people who just jump up and talk a bundle or something, I can't say it here before I go into jail. When cadet officer program started in the Guyana Police Force in 1958, the persons who were, the first 3 persons were Mr. Skip Roberts, Mr. Norman McLean, and Mr. Cecil Glasgow. They came from QC, straight out of the road, Civilian Street. They came and they were made cadet officers. The Standing Order of the Police Force 22 provides for that. So they were external cadets. Now there was a long discussion, involved discussion, even all the way to the National Assembly or whatever it was in those days. And the people argued that persons in the force, qualified persons in the force, were being disadvantaged by bringing people straight from the road. And they decided that they were going to have what we call internal cadets. So people like Mr. Balaram Ragabir, Mr. Lloyd Barker, the Beetle, you remember the Beetle? Those persons became internal cadets. They were already members of the force. I think they were corporals, and they again, the Standing Order says what should happen for internal cadets. I remember one of the last senior internal cadets was Leroy Brummel. Leroy Brummel was not a MOC or external cadet. So the program is there. And then the third program, which came about in 1980, is the Standard Military Officers Course, SMOC. And the fourth person on that course, or the first persons, there were two, Winston Felix and Donald Paper. During the course of the assessment, they had Basil, 84, 87 Basil, and you had Danny. Danny was an instructor at the training school. He was on that program. I don't think they made it through to the end. But so because you would remember when you were at college, when the president, Mr. Jack Dio, ordered Mr. Green, the commissioner, to make 50 cadet officers, we were tasked with interviewing those persons. And I recall very well that at least one man, when we interviewed him, we felt that he had the necessary academic qualification, but we did not believe that he would have withstood the rigors of the SMOC. And we recommended that he should be made an internal cadet. We recommended, so the opportunities or the avenues are there. So they come and tell you all kind of nonsense because they want to try to tarnish this young man. But as somebody else said, I don't know the young man. I don't know him. I only read the article. Keep your head up high, friend. Keep your head up high. Continue to work. Continue to pursue academic excellence. And I have said repeatedly, in the Guyana Police Force, the unfortunate truth is that when you start to pursue academic excellence, you will get a lot of enemies. So you got to watch out. You will get enemies because many of them are in senior positions, and what they have is a board certificate. If they're married, they might have a marriage certificate, and that is if that is done the legal way. And at some stage, their family are likely to get a death certificate for them. And they are very jealous. They are very insecure. So, young man, you do not lose hope. You just keep doing the right thing.
Paul, and it boils down to political interference in the Guyana Police Force. They said that they want a better quality of service from the Public Relations Department. And what they do? They install Mark Ramitar and they install Stan Govayo on the police force. Move out Assistant Commissioner Andrews and them from things. So that's where you get in. That is the effect of political interference in the police force.
Stan used to be my friend. I know, a lot of people take me now. Stan used to be my friend. I guess he no longer his friend because they don't want to buy curry on Sundays. So who knows? Who knows? But I think better can be done.
Yeah,
better can be done. You have inexperienced people who have been installed, as you say. I believe that when those releases are written, they should really run it by some of the people who are there. And next one that I saw from the same corporate communication unit is the CID induction course that was recently concluded. The first thing, 66, they got a big headline, 66. The CID now will have 66 new detectives.
Quantity and quality.
Let me say this to them again. We're teaching, we're teaching school calling, even though we don't ring a bell, school calling. Now, when you are identified to go on a CID induction course, the uniform ranks are identified, you're put on that course. At the successful conclusion of that course, you're not a detective.
True.
You are what we call an aide to the CID. And it will be published that you are now an aide to the CID. and then you have to go through a particular program period of assessment. I think it's 2 years.
Yes.
And once you are successful during that period, you are then appointed as a detective. So let me again tell them, and I know Mr. Blanham would know this, and Mr. Blanham, I expect that you to correct this. Because people look at you and laugh, You just take people off the outer uniform and you do whatever period, I don't know how long the induction course is, and you're making them detective. What about no, they are not detective. Members of the public, please. They are not detectives. Once you have completed that induction course, you now become aide to the CID. The only privilege you will get is to wear your civilian clothes and be paid a civilian clothes, or what they call plain clothes allowance.
Yes.
Right? Later on, when you are appointed to the detective as a detective, you will then it is published that you're a detective, and then you get whatever privileges go with the detective, including, and this again is teaching, including the opportunity to only get off uniform in the year. They don't know this, but as a detective, you got to get your uniform.
Yeah.
The standing order says that you have, but they're not going to give you full kit. So in other words, if they give the uniform 3 shorts or 4 shorts per year, you're going to get 2 shorts per year, because they anticipate that they may need for you to perform duties in uniform, or you might be reverted. And if you're reverted, you have your uniform to wear. So let's hope that they correct this thing and don't give people the impression that from the time of I finish an induction course, he is a detective. Now, right, so I think those are the issues leading up. Those are the issues. I hear somebody, a person just commented and say, plain clothes allowance can't even buy a rubber slipper. Which is true. The plain clothes allowance, all of these things need to be reviewed. Some years ago, we reviewed the education allowance. And it was found, I don't know if there's any significant change now, because I've said I've been out for over 11 years. That a man with a degree, I think, was something like $250.
Yeah.
A man with a first degree for a policeman, with a first degree from the University of Guyana, he got an education allowance of 250 Guyana dollars. Believe it or leave it. That is the education allowance that he got. And we were arguing, say, look, even though you might not be able to increase salaries because, the police is tied to the public service, and if you increase police salary, you might have to increase public service salary as well. We say increase these allowances, which can encourage people to go and study. You get your CXC, you get money for your CXC, and so on. So I thought I'll mention that. Now let me come to the real substantive issue this morning. We have already chewed up almost 40 minutes. That's the political interference in the force. What are your views on that?
The law is clear that the government is policy and the police operations. And we can't get anybody from the office of the president, Rob Street, Brick Dam, Carmichael Street, White's Lane, messing around or monkeying around with the Constitution, or masquerading or pomposetting, to use some words. The commissioner is responsible for operations of the police force. And there must not be any kind of political interference. It's like we used to say, Paul, you may remember we used to say 3 levels of command: gold, silver, and bronze. Gold sets the policy. Silver develop the strategy and the tactics, and bronze just do the work. But when you have gold melting down to silver and melting down to bronze, or silver upgrading itself to gold and to bronze, or even bronze trying to play those roles, there will be chaos, there will be problem, there will be all sorts of things. Allow the police to do their work. And we have too many persons, I mentioned a group of 5, who are dangerously ambitious and politically inclined. The politicians giving them instructions and they carrying out. Rob Street giving instructions. Home Affairs giving instructions. Legal Affairs giving instructions. All over giving instructions. And even Office of the President giving instructions. So they got to be chaos. They got to be confusion. The police is operational. And you can't tell me, Paul, look, I want to reduce crime by 10%. And then you tell me who must be my crime chief. Or you're telling me who must be in charge of the major crime unit. You can't tell me to improve, you want me to improve the PRO, and then you give me Govayo and you give me Ramutar. You can't tell me like it happened recently where uh, Ramlakan proceeded on leave and as Commander Borbis. He did an excellent job. And I wish to publicly thank him for the work he did whilst in Borbis and elsewhere. And then Ramlakan going off, and then you telling me that Fasad must be in charge. Moving from Region 1 and go to Region 6. And then when I send Roberts to Region 1, I say, no, you don't want Roberts there. Send Sam. Too much interference in terms of transfers and this kind of thing there. You had a lot of issues, as the case may be. But too much of interference allow the police to do the job. And the police them also, they must be careful because we had, remember, Ronald Gadrad, your friend, he was called before the Disciplinary Service Commission and he was asked about the illegal instructions that he gave to Commissioner McDonald, including upgrading a known bounty onto a weapon from 22 to 9mm, Axel Williams. And you know what Gadrad said? Commissioner Floyd McDonald should have been guided by the Constitution and his conscience. Full stop. He threw McDonald under the bus. And those who are taking orders from politicians, let them be careful. They might be thrown under the bus, but it might be worse than what happened to McDonald.
Yeah, because these buses now, I mean, these buses now are more reckless. You know, you get thrown in the bus, you get crushed, you run over by 1, by 2, by 3. But
Yeah.
for the benefit of the viewers, I want to read the Police Act, Section 6 of the Police Act as it relates to the relationship between the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of Home Affairs. Hear what it says. The Commissioner shall, subject to the general orders and directions of the Minister, of the Command and Superintendents of the Police Force, and he shall be responsible to the Minister for the peace and good order throughout Guyana, for the efficient administration and government of the force, and for the proper expenditure of all public monies appropriated for the service thereof. Section 6 spells out the relationship between the legal relationship between the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of Home Affairs. And let me say this, all of these interventions that you are referring to, that we are referring to, can only occur because of weakness in the man who sits in the commissioner's seat. I recall very vividly an incident when Mr. Larry Lewis was Commissioner of Police and Mr. Ronald Gadrad was the Minister of Home Affairs. In those days, and up to I think when Mr. Green was Commissioner, whenever postings, because as I said, the police term, and this is to the policemen who are listening, I know a lot of them are viewing. When it comes to the movement from inspector right up, you don't call it transfers. Even the order, the order will tell you, I think part 1 is postings and transfers. So postings relate to those senior people and transfers are for the junior rank. Now, when postings were to take place in those days, we had what we call a posting meeting where all the senior members of the force, well, not all the senior, the ones who are in senior management, will meet and will discuss who should go into this position. And it wasn't done arbitrarily. It had to do, for example, we recognize that someone will be retiring in the next 2-3 months or so. So you try to put people into position to take over for you to get a seamless transition from one commander to the next. That no longer happens. So you sit and you have this meeting. I remember on this occasion that I'm referring to, we had the meeting and some postings were recommended. Now, as courtesy, let me explain. As courtesy, as a courtesy, when that decision was made to post senior people, as courtesy, the commissioner would advise the Minister of Home Affairs, Minister, um, I'm removing this person from B division, and this will be the new commander from X date or so. Mr. Garjudge felt that he should be involved, and he wrote to Commissioner Lewis to tell Commissioner Lewis, a strong commissioner, that such an event should not take place until he sanctioned it. Commissioner Lewis, and I saw that letter somewhere not so long ago. Commissioner Lewis wrote to President Jagdeo, having gotten legal advice, to let President Jagdeo, he asked for an audience with President Jagdeo, to tell President Jagdeo that, look, the minister is getting involved in operational matters. The law says general directions. And if you want to tell me who should go where, those are not general directions. That is specific. And Mr. Lewis said that he was advised that that was outside the remit of the Minister of Office. Quite correctly. Quite correctly. So I am saying that to highlight the point that these things can only happen, all these postings and all these changes that you're talking about that took place immediately after August the 2nd, can only have occurred because you have a weak person sitting in the office or in the chair carrying out or performing the duties of Commissioner of Police. That could not have happened with Mr. Lai Lewis. That would not have happened under Winston Felix. And that would not have happened under Henry Green. No way. Any minister, in Henry Green days, I think it would have been Mr. Roy. There's no way Mr. Roy could have pulled that type of thing on Henry Green. Green, with all his faults, there's no way that could have happened. What are your views?
The problem with political interference in the Guyana Police Force, it has been before, it is now, and it will continue. It depends on the gravity and the nature of the political interference. There must be a dividing wall, a wall that separates political decisions from the Guyana Police Force. And we can't get people monkeying around with it. Don't mess around with the law. It must be, I like to use a word, it must be sacrosanct. And I see time going, but let me give you some examples what happened since the change of government in terms of political decisions. And these one decisions come from the commissioner or his executive leadership team. First, we had Hicken, who the previous government had banished to look at Venezuelans in region 1, 2, 7, and 8. They brought him back and put him in charge of operations. Blanham, who, remember you had an inquiry and certain things came out, they said Blanham needs some training, some experience at the command level. He was sent to region 1. He came back as crime chief. We had Karen Bash, who the last government had sent to CDC. He was brought back and installed as head of that famous Suku. We had Brutus, somewhere in the East Coast, brought back, installed as head of admin. We had Senior Superintendent Watts sent to West Demerara, and we know who live in there. And by the way, Watts is now the spy chief. We had God help the police force. We had Budram, who was looking after patrols in the division, and he's made this spy chief. And on the other side, we had some push factors. Williams sent him to CDC. Prime Minister realized he's head to Cresta Craig, sent him to the COVID-19 where he checked in. I know we do know, seeing that the core was flattened. Send him there. Send Assistant Commissioner Andrews Jr. there. Send Superintendent Stanton there. We had Cooper, who was in charge of Region 5, and because he didn't obey instruction to use lethal force against protesters, they move him, put him at the office called Projects Office, where there's nothing to be done, and also get him doing overseeing equitation. We had Ray, who was in charge of immigration, and the commission asked him to give him the names of persons who allegedly were out of the country and were recorded as voting at the last election. They move him from there to headquarters, and I get Hicken walking over his head. And a whole lot of movements that took place, even the junior one. And this one too, your good friend Prem Narayan, who they were sent to West Demerara, brought him back to the major crime unit, brought back Caesar to the major crime unit. All those were persons, political decisions who were placed in strategic position in the Guyana Police Force. No wonder the police force is in shambles. And there's a saying, when the infrastructure, Paul, shifts, everything rumbles. And it's rumbling from top to bottom, all because of political decisions. And we didn't have a commissioner who could stand up. And as the AG said, the force was headless during that 20 months period when Happy was holding there.
Well, let me say this. Well said. Well, let me say this. When you talk about those persons who were sent out, you talk about Williams. You spoke about Andrews Jr. You spoke about Stanton. When you look, what those guys have in common, they're all highly qualified.
They all have master's degree, and Williams is in the process of getting his doctorate.
But in Stanton's case, I think Stanton graduated as the best student on one of those programs when he did his degree. I think he got a distinction, and he graduated as the top student in the country. So these are qualified people that for some reason they don't want, well, we know the reason, they don't want to have them there because they are perhaps independent thinkers. And then you put people into the position who really are going to just take orders, and therefore, and nothing wrong. Let me say this. You have alluded to it, and I have done so in the past. Political interference in the Guyana Police Force has been there, I suspect has been there from time immemorial.
Yep.
What we are talking about is this interference in recent time that is unprecedented.
Yeah.
You know, you saw have interference with transfers of these people, of that people. You have interference here now where RP, who was carrying out the functions of the commissioner, went and went on a brief program overseas. And during that period, it can promoted people quite unlawfully. And when RP returned, he got attempted, or he reversed the promotion. And the politicians got involved and instructed him to recognize the promotion. That is political interference. There are many cases where people who are sent by RP and others in the admin to places, and those transfers or postings did not find favor with those underminers. And they brought the politicians in, and then RP would be instructed. We have the case with the police association. We all know it very well, but it is worth repeating for listeners because we have new people joining all the time. The police association was instructed by the person performing the function of the commissioner to hold the meeting, even though the time or the office to the office, the life of the association did not expire. Then they carried out the meeting. A meeting was held in the morning, organized by Brutus. That meeting elected or selected or installed, whatever you wanted to say, Prem Narayan as chairman. When the afternoon, the meeting with the legal body was held, and they re-elected those that were there before. When the commissioner learned of the two meetings, the commissioner, the person carrying out the functions of the commissioner, wrote to them to say that he learned that there were two meetings, and he vitiated. He said both the meetings are null and void. and instructed that another meeting be held. That is one day, let me say today, overnight, the commissioner had to reverse his position and wrote to say that the first meeting that elected, selected, or installed Prem Narayan would be the one or must be the one to be recognized. Political interference, I don't know if now that Apis is on leave, he will have the integrity to tell us what transpired there, but I'm sure Api didn't just go to bed and decided, as he purported to have done, to say, well, I get legal advice, and based on the legal advice, I decide, well, I can reverse the decision. He was instructed, and he carried out the instruction. What do you say about that?
The bigger picture, Paul, with that illegal police association was Parslow and Clinton Conway. Word leak out that the association led by Roseanne Ford would have nominated all of us on the Service Commission for a second term in office. I know in Guyana, they get problem with first term and second term.
No, they got problem with third term, not the first and second.
second and third term, right? They will give us, and they decided, politician, charge Conway, charge Parslow, disband the Police Service Commission, and elect a new police association of their liking. That's why they brought back Prem Narayan there. And to elect their own people to serve as a members of that police association. And the intention was, and it has come to fruition, that those persons will nominate, and they have done so, persons to serve on the new Police Service Commission. So they give them the name, the politician give them the name and say, these are the persons that we want. They held a meeting. The nominations didn't come from the floor. They were given the nominations. The meeting approved it, and they sent it to Sherlock Isaacs, those persons who they want. And when I look at them, out of the four, I know them well. 3 are politicians. One, every Sunday, is at a certain place with the politicians, a certain place in, I don't want to call the name, but they're there and they're discussing. So out of the 4, 3 are serious politicians. And the next person who's going to be the chairman of the Public Service Commission, remember, will be a politician. So politics will rule supreme.
And the name of this discussion today says, once that happens, there's no doubt that professionalism in the police force will be severely impacted. Absolutely no doubt. Because people are going to get, and we know, we have been around long enough to know that once you're in certain positions and you know about the political involvement and political interference, the weaker ones are going to just throw back and allow the status quo to run. So you're going to get to situations now where certain people are going to be above the law, because policemen will come to realize that they have political connections, and they will realize that if they are to do their job in a professional manner, they are likely to be victimized. So therefore, they just allow it to go. I made the point earlier that that type of thing breeds corruption in an organization like the police force. Because people will just say, well, if that is going on, it's better I make me hustle and catch what I could catch during the time. And that is what is going on. That is what will go on. Because once you have these political, people know what is, look, let me understand this. The ranks in the force, especially junior ones, people might say, look, they don't have all these academic qualifications and all that, but they are no dunce. They know what is going on. They know the corrupt ones, including their colleagues and the supervisors. They know who to collect from whom. Because in many cases, they are used to go and collect. They know that. They aren't stupid, so they will know about the political orders and the political interferences. They know. And many of them will take the line of least resistance. Because you see, victimization is a serious thing. And a man, even though some would argue that transfer, as we used to say in the days, transfer is part of your kit. It's easy to say that, but when you are a family man and you are providing for your family protection and security and all of that, and it's not easy to put yourself in a position where you wake up tomorrow morning and hear that you have gone from Georgetown to Etteringbang or someone of those remote locations. It is not easy. And therefore, many people, even though they know that these things are wrong, will decide, well, look, let me just let bygones be bygones, and whatever happens, look after myself, save yourself, and let your brother go astray. That might be the attitude, which is not a good thing, which cannot be a good thing.
Let me give you, before we close, see time flying away, in terms of the effects of political interference. They install the commander in Borbis. And right now, Borbis, I'm from Borbis. And the general feeling is Borbis is going to explode crime-wise. Because what they're doing is what I used to call fire brigade policing. They're reactive. A lady get robbed, go in and put money in the bank. Reactions from the police. Whenever you go in and put money in the bank, call me, and I will know, and I will get police escort free of cost. Vymanzorvin school. A guy going to school, a former student going to school with a cutlass, reported the police by the regional authorities about 2 weeks afterward. Reaction. Every day, school day between 8 and 11 and 1 to 3, 2 neighborhood police must go at Vymanzorvin there. One in plain clothes, one in uniform, and there's a guy there. A man get robbed not too far from a bank in Amsterdam. A reaction. Every day, 2 neighborhood police must walk along the bank. The bank gets armed security guard. Those neighborhood police are not trained to use weapons and all sort of thing. And this one, I want them to contradict me. Today should have been an inspection at Central Police Station. I know what, Paul? The police were instructed to make financial contribution towards that inspection, $1,000 per person.
What?
Maybe the money ain't come up, that's why they call up the inspection.
What?
Let them contradict me.
My Lord.
And those are as regards of political interference. Post the wrong people to the wrong location.
Well, let me say this. When you look, let's again, I try to analyze and try to be as objective as possible. When you look to see these postings since August of 2020, you can see that no careful thought is put into it. So you have a man, the same example you're going, Ramlakan was sent to not so long ago to take over the division. I'm glad to hear that he did a good job.
He did an excellent job. Excellent.
And he was of them, he was a good police. That's what he was a good, he knew policing.
Yeah.
Right? So he was sent there. Now he go and leave. And the sad thing about him too is that he was one that was promoted and the government refused to recognize his promotion.
He didn't have his chance to wear his thing.
Right, not only wear, but in terms of his benefits. Benefits. Now, you send Bolanat Prasad, limited experience and all that, but I believe that Bolanat Prasad is due to retire anytime soon as well. Mm-hmm. So many of these things are not carefully thought out and considered, because if a man get a year or so, you're going to send him to a place like Bobby's. What kind of impact, what impact can he make in a division? But it goes to show it's just knee-jerk. You want to send a man because perhaps you feel he's going to be compliant, he's malleable, and therefore you don't sit down and think it through. You just send him. And then a couple morning down the road, oh, this man going into retirement, you send somebody else. The force cannot be professional. The force cannot be developed in that manner. Cannot. And any management student, anybody who knows about organizational behavior and how organization should work, can tell them this. You cannot contradict this. You can't be sending a senior commander for a 1 year and a couple months, and then you and then you send him. Even I believe even people like the traffic chief is due to retire soon. And even if as we know they are wont to do. You're gonna pay them in lieu of leave, even if you'd want to say that you're gonna extend them beyond the age of 55. That cannot be the way to develop an important organization like the Guyana Police Force. Even the man who is now appointed as acting commissioner of police, if my memory serves me correct, that man should go into retirement on the 4th of August 2023. 4th of August 2023. And if you factor in leave into it, because the trend now is that in the case of Mr. RP, 9 months leave prior to retirement. The man before Mr. James, I think he went on something like 7 months. If you factor that, all of that in, you find yourself that when you wake up tomorrow, you'll find before long, perhaps at the turn by Christmas, this man has to go on leave prior to retirement. Because I have a strong suspicion, given the way the system works, that gentleman, and I'm using the term very loosely here, I'm very generous this morning, that gentleman, along with others, should have gotten their termination letter to retire next year, because that is how the public service works. That is how the ministry would have sent to them a letter this year to say that you will go into retirement next year, from what date, and so on. So,
but Paul, you gotta be careful. We have issues with board certificates, you know.
Well, Mr. Cummings is on leave. I saw recently that the man in charge of board certificate has been sent on leave. Some controversy surrounding it. So I'm not going to get involved in that. I made it known before. I was not the midwife. I was not the male nurse. I was not the godfather. But let me say this. This is not the first issue they have had with board certificates.
That's what I'm saying.
And the authenticity. I recall when I was commander B division, and people laugh, and this is true. This is true. Ask Mr. Finger when he was slave. I used to be the
George Finger.
George was my officer at Springlands, and I am doing notified inspection. So during the course of the notified inspection, I'm examining the nominal roll of Springland Police Station. And I saw the nominal roll, which was written by the sergeant in charge of the station. The sergeant wrote up the nominal roll, and he had his year of birth, I think at 1946 or something like that. But I remember that all the persons who were born in 1946 should have received their letter to go into retirement a few months before. So I questioned the thing. I said, you born 46, they want, in the first instance, the master years. I said, why can't recall seeing you having your retirement letter here? He said, oh, no, this here wrong. This is not the right year. I said, but is now you write this thing? They want to say yes. He wrote it. I said, well, you write the wrong age. I said, look, bring your board certificate and let me see what is the correct age. When I came downtown, I went downtown for a meeting. I went to the staff officer at the time, George Fraser. I said, look, I want to see this man's file. George, bring out the man's file. The last part of the file get 46. That's why it's written on the thing. But somewhere along the thing changed to 47. Without any, the thing changed. So the man changed the only thing that he wrote what was incorrect. So it's not the first time. And you have other in the history of the force, since I've been in the force, you have had a few other people. I remember senior man at CID.
Yeah.
A question is correct age and all that. You have had this type of thing. So it is not unusual. But even given the age that is on record, I am saying that you have a situation where people are put into these positions without any careful consideration. We're not talking about continuity. We're not talking about a strategic development of the organization.
No succession planning.
No proper succession planning or anything like that. No succession planning. You just say, all right, we like this man, put it there. Then a couple morning, you move it, oh, we like this one, put him there. Whether he's qualified or not. Because remember, when we used to identify persons to go on training overseas, That is when we had the training board comprised of highly qualified persons. So when a training program came up, the names will be submitted and it had to go before the training board. The persons used to be interviewed and all of that. And when those names, in many cases, were sent to the ministry for approval for them to leave the country to go and thing, the word used to be that they did not like the thing has to have optics. I remember, I never forget Larry Lewis telling us a particular time that the president said he didn't like the list, he didn't like the optics of the list. And that was interpreted to mean that the thing need to have some type of ethnic balance. It doesn't have qualification, nothing about merit or all that. It had to have a certain balance. And I am aware, you might be too, because you are in training for a long time, that we lost, Guyana Police Force lost many free training programs abroad because the people, the persons are the political interference and they did not like the optics.
That's true. And after a while, I think they used to make sure that they balance it, in the interest of other persons.
Well, the old story is that that's the way it can be.
That is how we started to promote a lot of incompetence.
Well, all right, good. Now we have had a nice and I think fruitful chat this morning. Your closing comments, your closing remarks.
Based on the topic, I just want to advise, and I gave free advice before Suku come and gave me another conspiracy to charge.
I ain't gonna deal with you on no one.
That the police force are more so those senior persons, those gang of five. They must be apolitical. I'm repeating the word apolitical, in the interest of the force, in their own interests, and the interests of the people of Guyana. If they want to deliver the highest quality of service that they swear to give to the citizen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conway. And viewers, I would normally close this program. I think I enjoyed this morning's program. Mr. Conway, thank you very much for your generous acceptance of the invitation to be on this program this morning. You did say to me several times that once it is convenient, you are going to be here. And I can assure you that I'm going to extend other invitations to you, because I found this program this morning to be very, very enthralling, to use the word of a mutual friend that he used recently. Very enthralling, not to say others weren't, but I totally enjoyed this interaction this morning, and I thank you very much for your participation.
All right, Paul, I always like to have groundings with a co-accused.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure this morning to interact with you and to speak on this very, very, very important subject. I hope that you found it very interesting. I have noted from the comments that people have indicated they have found the program very interesting. And again, I say we are out to highlight certain things. We are exposing corruption and incompetence. And at the same time, I am sure you will agree that we are teaching, because many of the things that we highlight, many of the things that we discuss will be new to people. And, people have reached out to me. I have had many police officers who have reached out and asked me to deal with specific subjects. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the research and I'm going to deal with the specific subjects. But what has happened, as you would have recognized over the weeks, is that we plan on doing one program and then things intervene, which force us to address those issues before they go stale. So I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here, giving the type of support that you are giving. I want to plead with you, as I've always done since this program started, to tell you that COVID remains with us. The numbers are encouraging. The ministry is now reporting over the past couple of days no new deaths. I think they reported yesterday 10 new cases. People have questioned the authenticity of those numbers. But whatever it is a clear indication that the numbers are falling. and the numbers will continue to fall if we continue to do the right thing. Let's continue to be safe, continue to observe the protocols. Let us continue to do so for our own safety, the safety of our friends, our family, and people with whom we work and with whom we interact. So thank you very much for being here this morning. And God's willing, next week, Wednesday, at 11 o'clock, we'll be here again on the program Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Thank you and bye.